time, I will move for the decrease in the budget of the Office of the Vice President. I actually intended initially to move for zero budget for the Office of the President, or for the disapproval of the budget for the Office of the President, of the Office of the Vice President, in light of those very questionable actuations on the part of the Vice President.
Ito na nga, Leila de Lima gustong i-zero budget ang Office of the Vice President. De Lima, baliw na. Pero bago ang lahat, maaari kayong mag-subscribe para maging updated sa mga issue at bagong mga balita. May pagkademonita nga itong si Leila de Lima at gustong i-zero budget ang Office of the Vice President. De Lima may saltik na sa utak at inggit na inggit kay VP Sara. Narito ang buong detalye.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished sponsor, I will not be interpolating. I will not be asking questions. I will be raising a parliamentary inquiry, then I will make a manifestation. Parliamentary inquiry. First, a clarification. Did I hear it right? That there is no one present from the Office of the President right now in today's, Office of the Vice President right now in these proceedings.
Affirmative, Mr. Speaker.
Second question. This is the third time. This is the third setting for the budget deliberations or interpellation for the budget of the Office of the Vice President. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Speaker.
Does the committee have the intention to respond to this letter dated September 30, 2025? The last letter flashed on the screen about the two conditions, supposed conditions, being demanded by the Vice President about her appearance before this body. Number one condition is requiring the presence of the President himself in the deliberations or interpellations for the budget of the Office of the President. And number two, requiring the lifting of the Immigration Lookout Bulletin for 7 officials of the Office of the Vice President from the list of the Department of Justice. Does the committee have the intention to respond to this letter of the Vice President?
Mr. Speaker, the committee will no longer respond to this letter, being the last day today.
And I think that should be the right action on the part of the committee. Let me say for the record, Constitution, at least respect the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. The whole budget process is something that is being directed and recognized by the Constitution itself. So disrespecting the budgetary process of this body is a clear case of disrespect of our Constitution. Who is she to continuously disrespect or show disrespect to this body as an institution and to the Constitution? If she can afford to be showing herself up to the Senate, including being there and applauding the former Senate President in his privileged speech, which is definitely not part of her mandate as the Vice President, why can't she not spare a few moments of her time attending to her official function as Vice President to defend the budget of her office. Enough is enough. Enough of her brattiness. So, I rise today to manifest my extreme displeasure about the behavior of our Vice President. And in due time, I will move for the decrease in the budget of the Office of the Vice President. I actually intended initially to move for zero budget for the Office of the President, or for the disapproval of the budget for the Office of the President, of the Office of the Vice President, in light of those very questionable actuations on the part of the Vice President. But after some mulling, after some reflections, and out of courtesy also and consideration to the personnel and staff of the Office of the Vice President, I'm just now thinking of moving for the decrease, let's say, for the retention of the MOOE and personal services budget, and get rid of the operational budget for the Office of the Vice President. Again, I will move at the proper time during the period of amendment for that. And I hope that my colleagues will join me in that motion or in that amendment. Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, next to interpret the sponsor, I move to recognize Representative Leila de Lima of ML Party List.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Sponsor. Lump sum appropriations. Gusto ko lang muna po ng maintindihan ng maigi yung lump sum appropriations. I know the definition of lump sum appropriations, which is found under DBM Circular, Budget Circular number 595, issued on January 20, 2025. Nung una po, nahirapan po yung aking staff sa paghanap, yung mga specific items under lump sum appropriations. Meron po kaya tayong kumpletong listahan ng mga lump sum appropriations? Kasi so far po, ang mga nakita po namin ng mga lump sum appropriations, at kalat po ito, nakakalat po ito sa NEP, nakakalat po ito sa GAB, are the budgetary support to government corporations, yung contingent funds, and then nakita rin po namin yung calamity fund, then the lump sum allocated to LGUs for their respective shares in fire code fees, death benefits for barangay officials, allocation for national government debt servicing. Ano po ba? Meron pa po ba? Do we have a complete list of this lump sum appropriations po?
Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, we could share the full list, but very quickly po, I will enumerate. So the items under lump sum funds would be the ALGUS, allocation to local government units. Under that, meron po mga clusters, MMDA, special shares of LGUs and proceeds of national taxes, LGSF, proceeds from fire code fees, barangay officials' death benefits, the BARM allotment. Another category po would be the budgetary support to GOCCs as mentioned. Third would be the contingent fund. Fourth would be MPBF. Fifth would be NDRRMF, yung calamity fund. Sixth would be the pension and gratuity fund. And the seventh would be the revised AFP modernization program.
Okay, kompleto na po yun. Yun po ba ang
Yes po.
kompleto?
Yes po, those are the 7 main categories and the subcategories
And
under
yun po ay
ALGOs.
nahanap sa iba't ibang chapters, iba't ibang portions ng ating GAB, di ho ba? Hindi po ba kaya posible na meron na lang po tayong isang chapter, isang portion ng ating NEP or ng ating GAB na nandyan lahat, yung lump sum appropriations? Pwede po kaya yon, or is that something na which is not really practical or not rational?
Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, ito po yung tinatawag natin na NDRIM. Actually po, they're all in one volume, in Volume 1B of the General Appropriations Bill.
1B.
Opo,
Pero
volume
ano
1B.
pa rin siya? Kalat pa rin dyan sa volume na yan. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, now, yung sa budgetary support po for GOCCs, is that really normal and is that really necessary that uniformly po or uniform yung amount for the budgetary support for GOCCs has always been 28,606,000? And why is that so? Why has the amount always been 28,606,000? And kasi even around 2020, yan na po ang na-notice namin na amount. Year after year, para-pareho lang ang ina-allocate na budget for lump sum. Is it because it's lump sum? So if it's lump sum, kailangan ho ba talagang same amount for several years already? Ganun din po yung contingency fund. It has always been a uniform amount of 13 billion year after year. Is there any special purpose for that, for the uniform amounts, or is that something that is that arbitrary?
Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, actually, if you look at the total amount under unprogrammed appropriations pertaining to budgetary support for GOCCs, yung total amount itself po would be different. So, for example po, in the 2025 GAA, the total amount is 6.269 billion. And in the 2026 NEP, the total amount is 6.895 billion.
That is for?
The budgetary support for GOCCs. The particular line item po, Mr. Speaker, that was mentioned by our distinguished colleague, the 28 million pesos po. Under the budgetary support for GOCCs, there's a subcategory called Others. Yun po yung 28 million pesos. Generally po, the amounts remain the same every year kasi po parang standby fund po siya. So it's roughly the same amount every year po.
Because it's a standby fund.
Yes
But
po.
the overall allocated amount for lump sum in 2026 it's 1 trillion, and from 2024 it has really increased. 2024 764.1 billion. 2025 it's 897.7 billion. So is that normal? Is that something in the ordinary that it really needs to be increasing every year? This lump sum funds. And these are standby funds. Why does it have to be always increased every year? Meron ba mga anticipatory circumstances? Contingent? Kailangan bang ini-increase ang contingent?
Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, so just to answer the few questions po, I'll answer them one by one po. So the total for 2024 for lump sum funds would be 503.7 billion. And then for 2025 po, it's 526.9 billion. And for 2026, it's 608.9 billion. So we recognize and we confirm the point of our distinguished colleague that it really is increasing year on year with regard to the lump sum funds. And one of the main drivers po for the increase would be the MPBF fund and the PGF fund. For example po, for the year, the increase po for the MPBF would be a PGF would be a 36.8% increase. And then the MPBF increased only by 2%, but the one that increased substantially would be the NDRRMF. So
This is
yung
calamity,
increase,
the calamity fund.
that is the calamity
Because
fund
we
po.
expect really the climate change situation to worsen.
That is correct po. But aside from the NDRRMF fund, which is the calamity fund, one of the main drivers for the increase po would be the increasing need to create new positions in government offices. Yun po yung pag-increase natin. And the pensions that we are releasing through the PGF. So yun po yung main drivers ng increase sa lump sum funds in previous years. Kasi some of them actually po nag-decrease eh. The other categories actually decreased from 2025 to 2026, but it was primarily the calamity fund, the pension and gratuity fund, and the MPBF fund, which increased.
So the pension fund has to be under the item of a lump sum. It cannot be in any other item allocated budget. Because that would be bringing me to my final point.
Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, the main reason why the pension and gratuity fund would have to be lodged within the lump sum funds is because we are unsure as to how much would be required by each agency. Hindi pa po natin ma-estimate, or we actually do not have the list of beneficiaries yet for the recipients of the pension and the other benefits po at the time that we are drafting the GAA, the GAB, and eventually the GAA. So that's the reason po why it would have to remain under
There is
lump
no
sum
way to
funds.
anticipate those for every agency, the pension funds. Wala ho tayong pwedeng ma-devise the mechanism, computation standards, or parameters within the agencies by which we can come up with estimates within the budget instead of lodging it in just lump sum amounts. And these lump sum amounts can only be estimates. But what about putting it in the budget itself, the regular budgets of these concerned agencies? So you may not answer that at this point, Madam Sponsor, but my final point, I raised it before with respect to the unprogrammed appropriations. I was asking before, can we do without unprogrammed appropriations? Is unprogrammed appropriations that indispensable? I'm raising the same point with respect to lump sum appropriations. Would lump sum appropriations be indispensable? Or at the very least, just limit it to really small number of items and also to small number of agencies. Just like unprogrammed appropriations. Why not be very, very restrictive about these two matters? Unprogrammed appropriations and lump sum. Limit, restrict the items, the amounts, and the agencies that need to be allocated with both UAs, unprogrammed appropriations, and lump sum appropriations, because of the possible abuse in the utilization of these special items. I call them special items. Hindi po pwedeng pag-aralan yan at i-consider, let's say, for the next budget, maybe not this time, but for the next budget. Mas maganda kung pwede na this time, especially on program appropriations. And even sa lump sum, kasi parang ang dami rin eh. Pwede po ba?
Mr. Speaker,
That's my last point. Thank you.
Thank you very much po. With regard to that po, dun po muna tayo sa, I may po respond to the pension and gratuity fund. The reason why it's lodged in the lump sum funds rather than in the individual departments, ang mangyayari po kasi, let's say you were able to lodge a particular amount within a department, and then the pensioners do not avail of that. Rather than mapakinabangan po ng ibang mga pensioners from other departments and agencies, revert back po to savings. So there's that risk that some of the pension funds would be unutilized in other agencies, and ma-under naman po yung binibigay natin sa ibang mga agencies. Yun po yung reason why it's good to put it in the lump sum funds. It gives some level of flexibility in these matters. With regard to rationalizing the items that would be put under unprogrammed appropriations or would be put under lump sum funds, the DBM is open to reviewing that po. For example po, as mentioned, for SAGIP, we can look at rationalizing it. So, hindi na po ipapasok yung infrastructure doon, just social programs po, social protection programs, particularly in cases, halimbawa po, kung naubos na yung AX or naubos na po yung MAIP, and there's still some remainder of the year that we would need to respond to certain calamities or situations, yun po siguro kailangan pa rin natin yung unprogrammed appropriations for that. But with regard to infrastructure projects, perhaps that's something we can take a look at po in terms of rationalizing it. For FAPS po, we would need to keep some under lump sum funds or unprogrammed appropriations kasi po that pertains to our commitments to other bilateral or multilateral bodies. But we recognize po the point of our distinguished colleague. We will take a look at the items under the lump sum funds and the unprogrammed appropriations and see which of these can be rationalized or safeguarded further.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Sponsor.
Thank you very
DBM.
much po, Mr. Speaker. Thank